Welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have Innovotech Inc., trades on the TSXV under the symbol IOT. It's a leading Canadian company specializing in microbiology and biotech solutions with a particular focus on antimicrobial and biofilm testing services. Positioned within the growing life sciences market, Innovotech combines cutting-edge science with practical applications, and its stock offers investors exposure to a high-potential sector. Today, we're joined by CEO Craig Milne. Nice to see you, Craig.
Hi, Anna. Thanks for having me on today.
All right, the floor is yours. Call me back when you're ready for questions.
Super. So welcome, everybody. I think Innovotech is probably a new story for many people out there. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing here at our company. First, a cautionary note, none of the statements I intend to make are predictive in nature, and please do see our recent MD&A for any further discussion of risks. Innovotech is a Canadian microcap biotech company with deep client relationships and 20 years of technical expertise. The company was first formed really by pioneers in a new branch of microbiology focused on biofilms. These are communities of microbes living together that form very clinically relevant sources of infection, industrial problems. They're very hard to kill. The company began trading on the TSXV in 2004. And over that time, our business has evolved primarily into a contract research organization supporting the medical device industry. I joined as CEO last year with the vision to evolve the company from its original mission into something broader. The microbiology services and more generally, laboratory services market space is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for us, and we can use our credibility in the market space, our quality management systems, and really our deep technical expertise to capitalize on a larger share. We've had a recent lift in our stock price, trading approximately at 17 to 18 cents today, based on some of our recent activity that I'm here to tell you about today. We've shifted our strategy recently to include mergers and acquisitions as an opportunity for us to gain expertise as well as additional market share. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about that today. Applications, they're in infections, and so lots of medical device, wound care applications. And that was really how the company got started. And we built a product around being able to grow bacteria in vitro in these biofilm communities. And that sort of formed the backbone of what we do for the past 20 years. We've evolved that into a contract research business, so we can now offer our services to medical device companies or wound care companies that are looking to study biofilms. And so we've grown a healthy contract research business around this. We have ISO certification, which is similar to GLP. It allows us to offer our data to clients in regulated industries in a trustworthy and credible fashion, so they can rely on our reports, essentially doing work that ultimately gets into product claim submissions through the FDA or other regulatory agencies. We've been traded on the Toronto Stock Venture Exchange for about 20 years, and we have patented IP and lots of know-how around what we do. In November 1st of this year, we acquired another company, Keystone Labs. They are in our home city here of Edmonton, Alberta. They've been in business also for about 20 years, a small boutique contract research business. But that acquisition really allows us the opportunity to expand into different market spaces. So they operate primarily in the pharma industry or nutraceuticals, whereas we're more in the medical devices space. So this acquisition really opens up opportunities for us. So today I'll tell you a little bit about our Q3 results, which we released recently. I'll tell you a little bit more about the acquisition of Keystone and lay out some of our plans for what's next for us. So I said Innovotech is a really small company. We are, and it shows in our numbers. This is our last last 8 quarters of revenues. We do about $400,000 a quarter recently. The really positive trends that we see in the last few quarters here is that our revenues are not only stabilizing, but they're also growing. And that year over year means that we are after 3 quarters where we were last year after 4 quarters. So significant improvements on the top line revenue this year. And we're continuing to put those efforts in here in Q4 2024. We have a small net loss that we continue to post. It's less than it has been in previous quarters, but it was an investment that we decided to make as part of growing our capacity. So we knew even a year or 2 years ago, even smaller in size than we were today, that we were capacity limited. So not having enough people, space, and equipment to execute on bigger projects that we suspected from our clients. So we invested in advance in those the people in the space, and that shows up in the small net loss that we have. However, our capacity to do work has grown, and that's not only led to more projects from clients, but also larger scale projects, which are great. We have a strong, healthy balance sheet. We have no debts as a company. Like I said, we've been in business for 20 years. We've kept our head above water the whole time, which sometimes is a mark of success in itself. But no debts. We do have $7.5 million of tax loss credits. So for us, what that really means is we won't be paying income taxes for a very long time in the future, or we can make an attractive partner in an acquisition type scenario. These tax losses are highly valuable for companies that experience significant tax expenses. Innovotech operates across a number of different business sectors. As small as we are, they are all related. So we do have a product line. It's called the MBEC assay. It's how we got started. I mentioned it was our ability to grow biofilm communities in vitro. Researchers around the world, companies, academics purchase these MBEC assays as a way to study different bacteria or to study antimicrobials, ways to kill bacteria. And that can be anything from antibiotics to cleaning solutions. We then take that MBEC assay and offer it as a service. And so clients that want us to do the microbiology around that, we then evolved that ability to grow bacteria on a plastic plate, similar to a petri dish, into being able to grow bacteria on any medical device. So we now list large, mostly US-based medical device companies as our clients, where we grow bacteria on the surface of their medical devices and look at how those can be killed, either by inbuilt coatings that they have on their devices or antimicrobials that could be applied in a surgical situation, that type of thing. And that forms the core of our business, that contract research. We also have an antimicrobial silver molecule that we have developed. It's unique in its chemical structure. It's uniquely effective against viruses, including COVID, as well as some very difficult to kill bacteria, MRSA, for example. And then we're always looking for new technologies as well to continue to grow our IP portfolio. I'll skip over a little bit more of the technical details of what we do as a company. Happy to chat at another time if it's of interest. However, I want to talk about our acquisition of Keystone. I love the motto of Keystone. It's really simple. Does it work? Is it safe? And so they apply that thinking to a lot of the pharmaceutical industry, nutraceuticals, industrials, and does it work and is it safe? And so they have a series of microbiology and analytical chemistry-based methods that they then study pharmaceutical ingredients ahead of manufacture. They were in the cannabis industry for a long time, really helping understand the quality of product that was being produced, as well as in nutraceuticals and other environmental monitoring situations. So Keystone has been in business for about 20 years. They have a drug establishment license, which is a license here in Canada that allows them to provide these reports to pharmaceutical companies ahead of the drug manufacturing process. really being able to provide that quality report and independent view of what's going on. They also hold a license to be able to hold and study bioactive compounds, things like ketamines or psilocybins, things that would are restricted or controlled in their application. And so they have a 6,000 square foot facility here, just 15 minutes away from our home base at Innovotech. And they did about $1.2 million in revenue in 2024 with a fiscal year end in the spring. And with some positive net income, that was an attractive target for us, especially given their alignment to us as a boutique contract research group. We saw some technical synergies. We saw some synergies across the leadership team. So just a brief introduction to who we are. I'm, as I mentioned, Craig Milne. I'm the CEO of Innovotech since August of last year. Jody McDonald, she is the president of Keystone, the founder. A vision for 20 years in this business, and really forms now part of our integral leadership team as we grow Innovotech forward. Tyler Boone is our chief operating officer at Innovotech, a PhD in microbiology, and really deep expertise and wonderful with our client relationships and managing of our laboratory services. Patricia Nadworny, she's a PhD in engineering, and as well as a PEng as well, and really with some seminal knowledge in that antimicrobial silver space and how it applies to microbiology. Our CFO, Bernard Grobler, has been with the company for a long time and really helps with fiscal discipline and planning. So the acquisition of Keystone came together. We first announced it, I believe it was September 11th. We had a letter of intent, definitive agreement signed just a short few weeks later. We paid just under about half of what their annual revenues were the previous year, so about $516,000, and we paid that by way of an issuance of new shares in Innovotech. We issued about 1.7 million shares to Keystone shareholders, and then we created a performance plan contingent on revenue growth targets and positive net income targets for Keystone as the balance of the payment, the consideration for the company. And that's the performance plan is really intended to continue to grow the company as our combined vision. And we retain Jody McDonald as a critical leader here at Innovotech, still operating the Keystone as a wholly owned subsidiary. We put together a private placement round to finance the acquisition. There was about 25 to 30% funded by insiders, which is fabulous to see. We've had some longtime shareholders and members of the board that contributed significant amounts to the deal. We'd originally proposed raising $1 million, but as time went on, lots of excitement in what we were doing and really the opportunity to grow Innovotech. And so we had an oversubscribed round at 1.15 million. There was a very active group led out of Vancouver called Small Cap Discoveries. They were able to bring in some of their membership group, about 25% of the financing, and the balance held from some new investors and some outsiders as well. So that use of proceeds now then goes into completing the acquisition, which is now done. Goes into clearing out some debts that Keystone had, as well as financing some new equipment, and then really targeting sales and growth of the two organizations together, and just capitalizing on the opportunities in front of us. I wanted to describe a little bit more about Keystone's business and how that we see there's easy ways for us to grow that. One example, they have what are called stability chambers. So we've all seen shelf life labeling on drugs and various products, and how those come about to be are product gets put in a stability chamber, which is a controlled environmental chamber over a long period of time. It could be weeks, months, or even years. And then at defined intervals, sample product comes out and gets put through some analytical chemistry methods to, again, go back to those questions of does it work and is it safe? Are the the active ingredients in the compound still what you think after a year at a given temperature and humidity. And so Keystone has a number of stability chambers, and some of the equipment that we are investing is more of these. What that does is it becomes a feeder mechanism for their analytical services business and the capacity to grow that. So we are doing just that as we speak. So overall, our real combined vision for Innovotech as a whole is really to grow top line. I mentioned we are too small as a company, and there's a really opportunity in being small that we can grow substantially. The market space for laboratory services is multi-billion-dollar market. Even in microbiology alone, it's multi-billion dollars. And so we want to grow from our very strong, incredible position that we've had for 20 years and start to capture some of the market space that we don't currently attend to. So investing in just traditional sales and marketing activities, something we haven't done for 20 years. So putting the focus on that to grow our base. We are investing in new service offerings. We're uniquely positioned with our medical device clients to understand what their next biggest problem is. And we're able to create services in advance of that. And so we are developing and ready to launch services that our current clients will need, but we also know that there will be additional client and interest activity after that. In Innovasil One, that antimicrobial silver that I mentioned, we have some commercial partnerships. The idea is that they will turn into licensing agreements or development agreements for them to incorporate Innovasil antimicrobial silver into their product. And so we're working through the process. It's slow, but it could be high value when that comes out. We're continuing to integrate the business of Keystone into our family of businesses, as well as, like I mentioned, inject more efforts into sales and marketing, as well as their capacity through new equipment, new space, and continued addition of people. And all of that comes out to revenue growth for us, which is really key. And through revenue growth, we can turn some positive cash flow. We're also part of our strategy here at Innovotech, and evidenced by this acquisition of Keystone, is we want to continue to use our position as a public company to acquire new companies. So we are seeking other M&A targets. We have a small pipeline of companies we are looking at now, and we're really looking for things like revenue opportunities and cash flow, and whether or not there's some strategic alignment with the technology that they bring or the people that they bring, so that we can continue to grow a strong organization of deep expertise in these market spaces. And so from that, I would love to turn it back to Anna and see if there's any questions from the audience, and I appreciate you listening to my story today.
Great job. Yes, we do have some questions. We want to talk a little bit. Richard wants to know, what are your plans for U.S. stock listing? What are your plans for that?
So we'd love to be listed on a U.S. stock market. There's obviously much greater exposure when we can get down there. Our target, really, we feel like we need to be larger from a market cap perspective. We are hovering around the $9 million mark right now, which is small. And so some of the costs of getting listed and maintaining that exposure, we just think that we need to grow a little bit first. So grow first, then look to get on the U.S. markets.
And Mel wants you to kind of go back over the value of the content, maybe some data and the reports you offer to clients, and maybe how the revenue model works.
So on our contract research business, which is sort of Innovotech's core business, it's 80 to 85% of our revenues. Really what happens is clients come to us with a problem. They have, say, a medical device, maybe it's a catheter, and they've developed an antimicrobial coating for their catheter. Things like urinary catheters or venous catheters, they can cause infections. When they're in the body for a long period of time, they can cause infections and they have to come out. So they are coated with an antimicrobial. And so what we do then is we help the catheter companies or coating companies early in their product development pipeline, understand maybe even which antimicrobial coating is the most effective. And so we design a series of experiments given our large library of microbes that we have in-house. Many are clinical isolates, and having previous experience working with the FDA to get product through to clearance, we can give them guidance on what the FDA might be looking for in terms of how to design experiments. So what we do then is we design these projects with our clients, we execute them, and then excuse me, we provide the data under our ISO quality management system that clients can then take that data to the FDA or their regulatory office and demonstrate using our data that their product is safe or that it is able to resist supporting the growth of microbes. And that's really what leads to then product claims that gets a new product launched onto market. So it's high value, specialized work that we do for these companies.
And then Lynn asks about the IMBEC assay, and this is looking at how to get bacteria off of medical equipment. So what results is that yielding?
Yeah, so, here's an IMBEC assay right here. It's if you can imagine like a petri dish to be able to grow bacterial biofilms in a high throughput manner. And so that plate enables 96 conditions to be studied at once. And so what we're able to do there is grow in 96 different conditions of different microbes, different antimicrobials. And whether we do it ourselves or we sell it as a product and clients do it themselves, it really allows rapid and low cost identification of methods and products that can kill bacteria.
Wonderful. And Tegan asks about the raise you were discussing earlier. Is that raise complete, or do you have more to raise?
On that acquisition, we've closed the books on that one now. We did that approximately November 1st is when the deal closed. So it was part and parcel of the acquisition of Keystone Labs. We had raised that money targeted around that acquisition. So, but keep in touch. That won't be. That was our first one in a long time, but it won't be our last one for sure.
And Val was mentioning the IMBEC assay you mentioned earlier, and it has a few models on it. So Val's asking, how many verticals to revenue do you have? What are they, and which ones are you producing? Which ones are producing for you now?
So the IMBEC assay itself, I believe we have 24 different SKUs or product lines. They're all small and niche, depending on the type of work individual researchers are doing. So we have some coatings that are typically more useful in a dental biofilm space, and other coatings that are typically more useful in an agricultural biofilm space. But for us as a revenue line, we really treat the IMBEC assay as a single product line with 24 different SKUs, and that is it has historically been about 20-25% of our revenues.
And sorry, my my cursor moved. Talk a little bit about your ownership structure and any insider activity.
Yeah, so we are typically owned about 45 to 50% by insiders. I mentioned in this private placement round, there was good participation. About 25 to 30% were insiders, and most of them were known entities to us, even beyond in the private placement round. And so, if you look at the insider transactions in the past 12 months, I think you'll see there's an extremely strong trend of purchasing, and I think I'd be remiss to say that there's any sales from insiders in the company. So I think, to me, that speaks volumes for people that understand where we're headed as a company and the potential we've got with not only our fabulous people and our IP, but our vision to really grow beyond what we've done over the past 20 years. They are buying stock, and that to me is a good trend.
And so where do you see the company in 5 years?
So we in 5 years, we need to have a US footprint. And so that might come by organic growth. That might come by acquisition of a U.S. laboratory, but being geographically being geographically accessible in the United States is really important. I'll be mum on Trump's tariffs there and how they may affect us as a company, but that's something that we think about as well. We are a Canadian company, and again, continuing to having operations in the U.S. would be really impactful. I can see us adding a number of companies through acquisition as well, and so expanding our portfolio of services. And really, once we get past the critical mass of what these services, these independent services look like, there starts to be a lot more crossover in terms of people and equipment, and we can start to gain more technology synergies the bigger we get. And so in 5 years, I do envision us having several companies under the umbrella, at least some US operations, and then really starting to dial in those technology synergies.
Wonderful. And last question for you. Talk a little bit about what one thing investors should be watching for this coming year.
So this year, our real focus is on top line growth. It's hard to save your way to success. And so we really want to continue to push revenue. We've had some great planning meetings for what the upcoming year would look like, about new services we can offer, new equipment we can purchase that can expand our capabilities, and really what that market demand might look like, so that we're growing into demand that exists. And so we're confident that we've got a plan to put that forward. And so we should see some good top line growth this year. And through that, continued good things will come from that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time with us. We look forward to having you back in the new year.
Super. Thanks, Anna. Appreciate your time, everybody.
All right, everyone. We'll be right back.